An alien queen knocked on my door, then asked me to marry her. Before we dive deeper into this story, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The knock came at midnight. Not loud. Not urgent. Just 3 calm, deliberate taps against my front door, as if whoever stood outside had rehearsed the gesture 100 times and still wasn't sure they were doing it correctly. I was sitting on my couch eating leftover pizza and watching the news when it happened. Nothing about that Tuesday had been unusual. Bills on the counter. Empty coffee mug in the sink. Shoes by the door exactly where my mother always told me not to leave them. I almost didn't answer it. Something about those 3 knocks felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Too precise. Too patient. Like whoever made them wasn't knocking to be polite. They were knocking because they had studied human customs and decided this was the correct sequence to initiate contact. I set the pizza box aside and walked toward the door. When I looked through the peephole, I saw nothing unusual at first. A woman, tall, standing perfectly still. Then she stepped slightly closer to the light and my blood turned cold. Her eyes were solid gold. Not contacts. Not a reflection. Solid, burning, luminous gold, like 2 coins heated until they glowed. Her skin carried a faint silver undertone, the kind that doesn't exist on any human being I have ever seen. Her hair was deep black with threads of what looked like actual light woven through it, shifting every time she moved. She wore a long dark coat that seemed to absorb the hallway light rather than reflect it, and across her collarbone rested a thin band of crystalline metal that pulsed with a slow blue rhythm like a heartbeat made visible. She knocked again. 3 times. Exactly. I opened the door. She looked at me with an expression I can only describe as someone who had crossed an ocean to deliver a single sentence and was now terrified they had forgotten the words. Then she straightened, lifted her chin, and spoke in perfect English with an accent that sounded like every language on earth layered on top of each other at once. "I am Queen Seraphil of the 9th Dominion," she said, "and I need a husband by sunrise." For several seconds I simply stared at her. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "I think you have the wrong apartment." She did not smile. She did not blink. She reached into her coat and produced a small glowing tablet that displayed my face, my name, my address, my entire life summarized in data points I had never given to anyone. Employment record. Medical history. 3 embarrassing posts from a social media account I thought I had deleted in college. "You are Daniel Mercer," she said calmly. Age 31. Former military engineer. Currently unemployed. No criminal record. No family obligations. Statistically the most suitable candidate within a 12,000 light-year radius. I looked at the tablet. Then I looked at her golden eyes. "Come in," I said. Because apparently that's what I do when alien queens show up at midnight with my life story on a glowing screen. She stepped inside and stood in the middle of my living room with the posture of someone who had never once in her entire life sat down out of tiredness. She scanned the apartment once, noting the pizza box, the empty coffee mug, and the shoes by the door, but said nothing about any of it. I turned off the television, mostly because having the news playing while an alien queen stood in my living room felt deeply inappropriate. "You should explain," I said. "Everything." She did. The 9th Dominion was one of 47 interstellar civilizations bound together under something called the Eternal Accord, an agreement signed 30,000 years ago that maintained peace across 6 galaxies by establishing sacred laws no civilization could break without triggering a war that would consume everything. One of those laws was simple. Every ruling sovereign must be bonded before assuming full command of their dominion's military. Not married in the human romantic sense. Bonded. A witnessed union recognized across all 47 civilizations as legal, permanent, and binding under accord law. The previous queen, Seraphil's mother, had died 3 days ago. The coronation ceremony was scheduled for sunrise. Without a bond partner, Seraphil could not be crowned. Without a crown, a rival faction called the Kethera Syndicate would legally seize control of the 9th Dominion's war fleet. 312 warships. Enough firepower to collapse 2 star systems and, as Seraphil calmly explained while standing next to my pizza box, more than enough to reach Earth within 6 days. "They've wanted this planet for 40 years, she said quietly. "Your sun produces a rare energy frequency the Syndicate uses for weapons manufacturing. They haven't moved against you because the Dominion's fleet has been blocking them." She looked at me directly. "If I don't take the throne tonight, there will be nothing blocking them by morning." I sat down on the couch. I'm not sure why I sat. My legs simply made the decision without consulting the rest of me. "Why me?" I asked. "Specifically, the bond partner must be chosen from outside the Dominion's 47 civilizations. Accord law requires a neutral witness. Someone with no political allegiance, no existing loyalties to any galactic faction, and no prior knowledge of interstellar politics. She paused. Your planet qualifies. You specifically qualify because your military engineering background means you already understand classified information protocols. You won't panic. I was currently on the edge of significant panic. What does the ceremony involve? I asked because apparently we were doing this. You stand beside me. You place your hand against mine. The Accord scanner confirms willing participation from both parties. The bond is registered. I am crowned. She tilted her head slightly. It takes 4 minutes. And after? For the first time since arriving, something shifted in her expression. Just slightly. A shadow of something behind those golden eyes that was harder to read than the rest of her. After, she said carefully, the bond is legally permanent under Accord law. However, it does not require cohabitation, emotional commitment, or any obligation beyond the political record. She paused again. You would be free to live your life exactly as you have been. With one exception. What exception? You would hold the honorary title of Prince Consort of the Ninth Dominion. She met my eyes. Which means the Syndicate would consider you a political target for the remainder of your natural life. There it was. The part she had been building toward since those 3 careful knocks. She hadn't lied. She had simply arranged the truth in the most survivable order, giving me the stakes before the cost, the purpose before the danger, the reason before the consequence. I realized then that she wasn't just intelligent. She was careful in the way that people are careful when they've spent their entire lives knowing that one wrong word ends everything. You could have found someone who didn't know what they were agreeing to, I said. Yes. But you didn't. No. Why? She was quiet for a long moment. Outside my window, the city hummed its ordinary midnight sounds. Somewhere a taxi honked. A dog barked 2 floors up. The completely ordinary world continuing its completely ordinary business while a queen stood in my living room carrying the weight of 6 galaxies on her shoulders. Because my mother told me, Seraphiel said finally, and her voice was quieter now, stripped of its diplomatic precision, that the only bond worth registering is one entered with full knowledge. She looked away for just a moment. She also said that humans are the only species in the known galaxy who will walk toward danger after being told exactly how dangerous it is. I thought about that. She sounds like she was remarkable, I said. Seraphiel's jaw tightened slightly. She was. I stood up from the couch. I walked to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of water because I needed 30 seconds to think and because offering someone water is apparently my default response to impossible situations. I set 1 glass in front of her. She looked at it with brief curiosity, then picked it up and drank, which felt like the most surprisingly human thing she had done since arriving. If I say yes, I said, and the ceremony happens and you take the throne, what stops the Syndicate from finding another way to come after Earth eventually? Nothing, she said honestly. Except that a crowned queen of the Ninth Dominion with a legally registered bond has full command authority over the fleet. And I will use every ship I have to make certain they never reach this star system. Because it's your job? She set the water glass down carefully. Because it would be my husband's home planet. The word hung between us like something neither of us quite knew what to do with. I picked up my jacket from the hook beside the door. The old one. The one I wore through 3 overseas deployments, through my sister's wedding, through the worst night of my life and somehow out the other side. It wasn't much of an armor. But it was mine. For minutes, you said. She stood straighter. For minutes. And you're absolutely certain the scanner registers willing participation. It is the most sophisticated consent verification technology in 6 galaxies, she said. It reads neural intent at the quantum level. You cannot fake it. Good, I said. Because I'm not faking it. Something moved behind those golden eyes. Not surprise exactly. Something quieter than that. Something that looked, for just one moment, like relief so profound it had nowhere left to go except inward. The ceremony happened on her ship, which was parked 300 meters above my apartment building using a cloaking system that had apparently been fooling my city's radar for 6 hours. The chamber was simple. Soaring ceilings of dark crystal. Walls that hummed with quiet energy. 2 witnesses who looked at me with expressions ranging from skepticism to guarded respect. The Accord scanner was a column of soft white light that read us both simultaneously when we placed our hands together. Her hand was warm. I don't know what I expected. Something cold maybe. Something foreign. But her hand was warm and her grip was steady, and when she looked at me in that white light with her golden eyes, she looked exactly like someone who had been carrying everything alone for a very long time and was only now, in this single moment, letting herself acknowledge that someone was standing beside her. The scanner chimed once. 4 minutes. Exactly. The coronation followed immediately. I stood at the edge of the chamber and watched them place the crown on her head, a structure of living crystal that settled against her dark hair like it had always been waiting there. The moment it touched her, the entire ship hummed with a deep resonance that I felt in my chest more than heard with my ears. She turned to face me after. Queen Seraphil of the Ninth Dominion. 312 warships now under her full command. 6 galaxies watching. The Kethra Syndicate already receiving the legal notification that their window had closed forever. She walked toward me and stopped exactly 2 feet away. You should know, she said quietly, that the Accord bond does not expire. I know. And that political targets tend to attract complications. I've handled complications before. She studied my face for a long moment. Why did you really say yes? She asked. And this time it wasn't a queen asking. It was just her. Whoever she was underneath everything she carried. I thought about Earth sleeping peacefully below us. About 3 knocks on a door. About a woman who had traveled across 6 galaxies and still chose honesty over convenience. Because your mother was right about humans, I said. And because someone needed to stand next to you tonight. For the first time since she had knocked on my door, Queen Seraphil smiled. Not diplomatically. Not carefully. Just genuinely, completely without rehearsal. Then welcome Daniel Mercer, she said softly, to the rest of the universe. Outside the ship's viewport, 6 galaxies burned quietly in the dark. And for the first time in a very long time, Earth had someone watching over it.